Hi, welcome to my podcast. My name is Analiza Ortojan from BSSRM 701P. This podcast is intended in final exam of life works of Jose Rizal from Module 911. The last trips of Rizal before the execution. Jose Rizal left the Pitan exactly 4 months before his execution of Bagumbayan. He has accompanied by his nephew, Angelica, Narcisa, and Josephine Bracken. Jose Rizal's common law wife, he recalled that he had been in the Pitan for 4 years, 13 days, and a few hours. During his trip for Manila, the ship went to the different stopovers, namely Dumaguete, Cebu, Iloilo, Romblon, and Capiz. On August 1, 1896, the steamship España reached Dumaguete. On August 2, 1896, España reached the province of Cebu a few miles from the Dumaguete province. Rizal was very impressed on the beauty of the town. On August 3, the steamship reached the Iloilo province. He was able to relax through shopping and visits to the Molo Church. Departure of Spain. Aside from having trips and different provinces of the Philippines, Jose Rizal was able to visit Spain exactly 3 months before his execution in Bagumbayan. The steamship Spania arrived in Manila Bay in August 6, 1896. Jose Rizal wanted to catch the mail ship named Isla de Luzon for Spain. Unfortunately, the mail ship departed the day before he arrived in Manila. On September 2, 1896, 6 o'clock in the evening, Jose Rizal was transferred to a steamship named Isla de Pinay. The ship sailed from Manila all the way to Barcelona, Spain. On September 4, 1896, a young student from Aragon informed him that around 600 innocent Filipinos were executed by the Spanish authorities because of the outbreak of the 1896 Philippine Revolution. Stopover in Singapore in 14 years, 1882 to 1896. Later, Jose Rizal would go back to Singapore as his first stopover on his way to Barcelona, Spain. He arrived on the shores of Singapore 4 days after departure in Manila on September 3, 1896. On the following day, Rizal and other passengers took time to shop in Singapore markets. Rizal did not know that he would be become by arresting officers. He was also oblivious that he would be a prisoner and not a citizen when he reached Barcelona. While in the ship, he was secretly kept under the surveillance. On September 28, 1896, Rizal received the puzzling news that he will be arrested by Spanish authorities upon reaching Barcelona in accordance with the telegram instructions sent by Government General Roma Blanco. Rizal said in his memoir that on the September 29 there were people on board who do nothing but slander him and invent fanciful stories about him. He was going to become a legendary personage. On September 30, 1896, he was ordered by Captain Alemany to stay in his cabin and wait for the further instruction from Manila. Jose Rizal was considered a prisoner, an enemy of the Spanish government. This was also the start of Jose Rizal's predicament to his execution in Bagumbayan. Prisoner on board, the Isla de Panay reached Malta on September 30, 1896 at 6 o'clock on the evening. He was advised by the steamship's official to stay in his cabin. Because of this, he was not able to visit the famous island, fortress of the Christian Crusaders. The steamship reached Barcelona, Spain on October 3, 1896 at 10 o'clock in the morning. At this point, Jose Rizal was already a prisoner for 3 days. As a prisoner, He was under the supervision and control for the military commander of Barcelona, General Iloyo Despujol. On October 6, 1896, at 3 o'clock in the morning, Rizal was advised by the military sergeant to pack his things. After an hour, he was transferred into a boat accompanied by military officials. As a prisoner, he was forbidden to walk around the steamship. He was also locked up in his cabin. Jose Rizal was also handcuffed for 16 hours until the ship anchored on Singapore. He described his guard on duty as amiable, polite and refined, and consistently serious of his duty. Preliminary trial with Colonel Francisco Olive. His preliminary trial began exactly 17 days after he arrived in Manila from Singapore. The trial was facilitated by Colonel Francisco Olive, a military judge advocate. The purpose of his trial was to inform him of his case, possible legal punishment, and charges to. The preliminary trial was also conducted to give him a fair chance to answer the questions asked by the judge or advocate. The investigation avoided him the opportunity to meet the person who testified against him. But just like any other trials, he was prohibited to confront these witnesses. The arraignment of trial of Jose Rizal. Jose Rizal was given the opportunity to choose his counsel from a list provided by the military court. Then the court finally released the complete list of available counsels, which contains 100 first and second lieutenants in the Spanish army. Subsequently, Jose Rizal chose Lieutenant Luis Tafiel de Andrade, the brother of Jose Tafiel and Andrade, as his defense counsel. The trial's agreement marked the beginning of the military investigation on the complaints charged against Dr. Jose Rizal. The agreement of the case was facilitated by a Captain Rafael Dominguez, the principal organizer and the living source of the Filipino insurrection, the founder of societies, periodical, and books dedicated to fomenting and propagating ideas of rebellion. The statement about was the summary of Jose Rizal case of rebellion, sedition. His trial occurred at Quarter de España, a military building. To be exact, the trial started at 8 o'clock in the morning of 26 December 1896. Dr. Jose Rizal was accompanied by two soldiers, his arms with wide with a rope. The military proceeding was also attended by the Jose Rizal common law wife, Josephine Bracken. This trial enabled him to discuss his sentiments on the serious charge pressed against him. He was given the opportunity to defend himself by stating the results 12-point defense. Despite Jose Rizal's 12-point defense, the judges of the court-martial decided to execute Dr. Jose Rizal on December 13, 1896. At 7 o'clock in the morning in Bagumbayan, the decision was affixed by Government General Camilo G. de Pula Bieza. Rizal wrote letters to his loved ones. To Ferdinand Blumentritt, to his family, and to his father, Paciano Rizal. The last farewell of Jose Rizal, translated from the Spanish by Charles Derpage here. Ultimo Adios, or the last farewell of Jose Rizal, is a 14-verse valedictory poem written shortly before he was put to death. Such a poetry expresses love, death, unfathomable grief, and a man sure of his own convictions. It contains lines that enlightened and ignited the flame of millions of people's heart. Also, he wanted to honor his homeland, the pre-Hispanic Philippines, for which he was giving his life. He also used the poem to say goodbye to his friends, family, and loved ones. Jose Rizal's last hours. December 29, 1896, at 6 o'clock in the morning, Captain Dominguez was tasked to read Jose Rizal's death sentence. After an hour, Jose Rizal was transferred to the prison chapel. He was then visited by his friend from the Jesuit congregation, namely Fathers Miguel Sadera and Luis Visa, rector of Ateneo de Manila and Jesuit teacher respectively. 15 minutes after they arrived, Father Miguel Sandera left Father Visa and Rizal in the prisons. Visa was asked by Rizal if he can still remember the statue of the Sacred Heart of Jesus which the covered with his penknife. He made the statue which he was studying at the Ateneo. At 9 o'clock, Rizal was visited by Father Vicente Balaguer, Jesuit missionary, and Jose Rizal Balaclara, his teacher at the Ateneo. Afterwards, Santiago Matax, Spanish journalist, also arrived to interview Rizal for his newspaper El Hidalgo de Madrid. Rizal was alone between 12 o'clock in the afternoon up to 3:30 p.m. Saidi assumed that it was during this time when Rizal completed his last poem, Mi Ultimo Adios. Rizal managed to write his last letter to Ferdinand Blumentritt. Oh, my dear brother, when you receive this letter, I shall be dead. Tomorrow at 7 I shall be shot, but I am innocent of the crime of rebellion. I am going to die with a tranquil conscience. Goodbye, my best, my dearest friend, and never think ill of me. December 29, 1896, Fort Santiago. Father Balaguer, Jesuit missionary, come back to Rizal's prison cells and discuss the retraction of Rizal to Masonry, anti-Catholic ideas and previous writings. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Doña Chodora Alonso visited his son in Port Santiago. He knelt down to her, kissed her hands, and asked her to forgive him. Trinidad, sister of Jose Rizal, also arrived at his prison chapel. She was there to it's her mother. Jose gave the alcohol cooking stove to Trinidad. Afterwards, he was visited by Father Stanislaw, March Jose Villa Clara and Rosel. The Dean of Manila Cathedral, Don Selvino Lopez Tonio, also visited Rizal. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Rizal had his last supper. He told Captain Dominguez that he already forgave his enemies. After a few hours, roughly 10 o'clock in the evening, a document of restruction was sent to his prison from anti-Filipino Archbishop Bernardino Nujaleda. It was sent from Father Balaguer. Rizal was instructed to sign the draft declaring his retraction to all his previous writing, publication, and conducted contrary to the true character as son of the Catholic Church. He refused to sign the documents December 30, 1896. Dr. Jose Rizal woke up early, 3 o'clock in the morning, to hear the last mass of his life. He was also instructed to have a confession. He ate his last breakfast at 5:30 in the morning. Afterwards, he composed 2 letters addressed to his family. To my family, I ask you for forgiveness for the pain I caused you, but someday I shall have to die, and it is better that I die now in the plenitude of my conscience. Their parents, brothers and sisters, give thanks to God and preserve my tranquility before my death. I die this time, hoping that with my death you will be left in peace. It's better to die than to live suffering. Console yourself. I enjoy you to forgive one another the little meanness of life and try to live united in peace and good harmony. Try your old parents as you would like to be treated by your children later. Love them very much in my memory. Bury me in the ground. Place a stone and a cross over it. My name, the date of my birth and of my death. Nothing more. If later you wish to surround my grave with a fence, you can do so. No anniversaries at Super Paang Bundok. Have a pity on poor Josephine. Also, Rizal wrote a letter for his brother Pasiano. For more than 4 years, he have neither seen nor writing each another, not for lack or love on your part, nor on mine, but because knowing each other as we do, we needed no words to understand each other. Now, what I am about to die, I dedicate these last lines to you to tell you how sorry I am to leave you alone in the world, bearing the burden of the whole family and our old parents. I think of the hardship you went through to help me in my career and believe I try my best to waste no time. My brother, if the fruit is better, then fault is not mine, my fate. Epic of Rizal deaths. For the Spaniards, the death of Dr. Jose Rizal boasted their pride as colonizing state. It was also manifestation of their superiority over the Filipinos. Others shouted with sadistic joy, "Viva Españas!" and martyrs a los traidores. For the Filipino revolutionaries, the death of Dr. Jose Rizal contributed for the patriotic flame to achieve independence through a bloody revolution. The following are the poetic lines composed by Cecilio Apostol, greatest Filipino epic poet. These lines are dedicated to the martyrdom for Dr. Jose Rizal. I wish in peace in the shadows of oblivion, Redeemer of country in bondage and the mystery of the grave. Do not cry, hate not the momentary, resolve as Mason and the retraction issue. Masonry refers to an association of men who freely criticize the government policy without exhibiting any force toward the Spanish friars. It was composed by liberal Republicans, Spaniards during the 1880s. Retraction refers to an act of drawing back or and withdraw a particular statement or an action that was previously done. It is also an act of taking something back. Rizal first encountered the association of Spanish liberals and Republicans who fearlessly criticized the Spanish government in 1883. They were also known as the principal enemies of fairs in Madrid, Spain. From then on, he was accredited with the prominent Mason sects as Miguel Moraita, Manuel Becerra, Francisco P.A., Margar Emilio Junay, and Juan Ruiz Jorello. Oh, death. Masons occupy prestigious occupation in the society, such as historian, writer statements, and professor. Because of his desire to propagate liberal and democratic values such as freedom of speech and assembly, Jose Rizal joined the association in March 1883, Acacia Masonry. Jose Rizal also joined the Masonry in order to use the Freemasonry aid in his fight against the Spanish friars in the Philippines. He was aware that the friars were only using the Catholic faith to conceal their personal interest in accumulating wealth. He planned to attack those friars through the help of the organization. 7 years later, he transferred to La Solidaridad in Madrid. He became the Master's Masons of his Masonry in 1890. There were at least 9 women linked with Rizal, namely Segunda Katigbak, Leonor Valenzuela, Leonor Rivera, Consuelo Ortega, Ocean San, Gertrude Big Katie, Nellie Bosted, Susan Jacoby, and Josephine Bracknell.